You're in the field house with the Clack Academy.
It's all about the ball. Yeah. Tonight, we find a way.
And they knock
A-plus content.
Wood County
Authentic stories.
to be the 7A champions.
Actionable takeaways.
We're going to attack them like they've never been attacked.
This is the Field House Podcast.
Coaches, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Field House Podcast with me, Coach Tad. I got Coach Mash with me. This is another episode in our series of Clack's Corner. And so, of course, we've got our special guest, Coach Clack. Coach Clack, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, buddy. Doing great. Thursday, been a really good week of work, gearing up for a big region game. Hay's not quite in the barn, but we're going to stack that thing in there today.
Yep.
And get
Good.
ready to roll.
Well, let's just jump into it. It's been a couple of weeks since we last connected, and since our last time, we've had Parkview's coming off two back-to-back losses, a tough game against North Gwinnett, 53-6, and then another region game against Brookwood, a loss, which was actually a closer game than maybe the score represents, but a 32-20 score. I'm just kind of curious from you, looking back between those two games, what are some of the biggest lessons the teams learned and lessons that you're taking to move forward?
And let's kind of pull them apart, and I'll try to keep it to the abbreviated version because I could go an hour on the differences in the two, which I think is great insight, maybe for the casual viewer or somebody from the outside, and even young coaches. Losses aren't just losses, right? Losses should be lessons, and we do our best to make sure that happens. But even with that being said, and to take the cliche out of it, one felt very different than the other, and not just because of the score. We knew, as we talked about in the episode leading up, North Gwinnett is the region champs. They are certainly a program, what I would call kind of in that tier 1 level right now. Perennial top 10 team. Coach Godfrey does a phenomenal job over there. They've got it humming, and knowing where we started back in February and just being objective and seeing where we were at. We started this journey together, and I keep saying we're running our race. And you got to be realistic, and you got to be intentional with each step. You can't get to step C without getting to step B first, and we're working through that process. But with that being said, there's no clear defining moment like, okay, here we are. You're constantly learning, you're iterating, you're rinsing and repeating, and taking in the information that you got. As we hit the North Gwinnett game, again, confident, I was ready. The boys had a good week of work, but we found out real quick. It was a different level. And that's okay. That is what it is. But when we came back from that meeting on Sunday, they got to see a little different side of me, a side that doesn't come out a whole lot. I'm not a fire and brimstone coach. I don't enjoy those really challenging them conversations, but it was what was needed, because what I saw in that game wasn't just a team that was ahead of us. I saw a team that really put more strain and efforts and intentionality into what they did, and it started early, and it continued throughout the game. We got out coached, we got out played, we got out hustled, and scores get to be that way. With that being said, that was a very frank conversation about that's what it is, and we watched the film together, and we made it very clear. And so we challenged them that week to come back and basically never put that type of effort on film again. And I don't care if somebody's better than us. I don't care if I'm giving up size. We control our effort. We control our fight. And we walked into that game, I think, with a lot of minds already made up, and I didn't want to see that. That sign up for it. And so thankfully that was, I think that message resonated. And as we prepared for Brookwood, I saw a different energy. I saw it. They were angry. They were angry because they got to look back at it and say, you know what, that isn't good. We are better than that. And you could hear it at practice, right, Coach Mash? I mean, that's what I would go to inside. I said, yes, that sounds different. That's a team preparing to strain. Because I really believe we are getting to that moment. I believe it, where we can play with teams that we couldn't play with last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into the Brookwood game, I felt very confident that we can. Will we? I don't know. And so just to sum the Brookwood game up in a really quick note, I really don't know that I've ever felt like my team has outplayed another team to that level and lost a game. And so then you got to look back as to why, because we did lose that game. But what I mean by that is 80% of that game you would look at and say, wow, that team is winning these reps. And then you look at the scoreboard at the end and there's a 12-point difference. So where is that? That from the intent, the avoidable mistakes that we're still making. You know, we look at it. There's a statistic in football. Let me rephrase. I hate stats. There's a data point. There's a data point in football because data tells a story. If you win the average starting position versus your opponent, the differential by 12 or more yards, we won it by 15, meaning our average starting field position, let's say, was on the 35. Their average starting field position was on the 20. Now multiply that out by 10 drives. That's 150 hidden yards. You win that game 92% of the time. We won it by 50. So again, okay, so let's build a layer back. We were one of the 8% that lost the game when we won by that much. Why I love that data point is it takes everything into account. It takes turnovers into account because that would be the starting position. It takes special teams into account. It takes your defense, get him off the field, and your offense sustaining drives. So then you dig deeper. There's another data point that I use, and it's really the goals that I have for offensive football. I call it the 12% rule. I didn't make this up. I found it and I used it, and I went back to 2012 and analyzed my teams. And if we reach this 12% rule, we have won 100% of the ballgame. And basically what this is you take 4 categories: drop balls, foolish penalties, pre-snap penalties or post-snap penalties, plays that are negative 2 yards or more, and turnovers. You take those 4 categories and you add them up. If it is less than 12% of your total plays, which, by the way, we ran 90-plus plays in this game. If your total plays are less than 12%, I have won 100% of those ball games. Not even looking at what the defense or special teams did, we have won 100% of those ball games. Now, it's not easy to get under 12%, but around 13, around 14%, probably winning 90% of those games. We had close to 20 unforced errors. From the drops to the pre-snap penalties, a couple of turnovers, right? A couple of big losses. So that's where you start digging in, and we're playing really good football, right? We're playing really good football at times, and then we get down into that red zone, or we kind of like, it's like we're surprised we're there. And that was something we discussed. I said, guys, this maybe was your first opportunity in a big moment with a team like this that you have put yourself in position to make that play. Not this miraculous play like we were talking about maybe against Collins Hill, like, oh, somebody's got to make a play. No. We just needed to complete the play. And what's cool about that is, how do you fix it? There's really not a whole lot we can do other than discuss it, call it out, put them in the best situation we can in practice. But the way you fix it is you grow through it. With a young and inexperienced team, these guys are getting in these moments. And I think that we're in those moments now. We played well enough to be in a moment that mattered late in the game, middle of the game, early in the game. And we didn't make the play that night. I am convinced. I don't believe it anymore. I'm convinced that we're ready to start making those plays now. Yeah. And that's where we are.
Just to add a piece to that. So going from North Gwinnett, after the North Gwinnett game we had that week before Brookwood to get ready. And I look at I kind of break it down in macro and micro. We had a laundry list of macro things that we needed to commit to fixing on the field. So alignment assignment, pursuit, strain, on the field leadership. So those are big things. And, you can work on those and use the language to encourage and promote those things. So I do think that through that week with that committed effort, we did improve in those areas. And I think that absolutely showed up at Brookwood. Absolutely did.
Yeah.
So then we go to the micro, and that's, I think, what happened in that game. There were micro elements of the game. So winning those moments. We talk about this a lot, Coach, win the moment. I think our leadership council actually came up with that as a slogan, win the moment. And so we worked really hard to fix some of the aggregate things, but I think we got stuck in the winning individual discrete moments, which, like Coach said, we can learn from that, from losing those. We can learn to come back, and now maybe we focus on those micro, discrete moments.
And Mash, you and I talked about it. I mean, really, that game again came down to just a few missed opportunities down towards the end of the game. And it is a young team. They're learning from these opportunities. Every single loss or whatever, all these games are opportunities to get better, right? Opportunities to learn from and have past experiences to build on. But Coach Clack, I want to ask you, with the young team, knowing that some of these were coming from unforced errors, how do you coach the guys, to better execute in those critical moments in the game?
Again, I think the biggest thing is experience, and that may sound like I'm deflecting, and it's really a weak answer in a sense, because I love being able to give you, no, we do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I've been through this a few times, and I've seen this, and I think I keep referring back to this team I had in 2020, and it ended up being a quarterfinal team with a lot of very talented sophomores and juniors who were playing for their first time, and a lot of seniors. Our senior class were a lot of guys who were getting their first experience, meaning they weren't able to start before. So we had youth, which we have on this team, and we had inexperience. And what happens is you finally get on the field on Friday night, and it's the first time, and man, you're good enough, but you're not quite sure yet.
Mm.
And you haven't felt that stress and that pressure, and you haven't felt the big lights, and you're sitting there in your mind. It's kind of like, don't jump, don't go, it's on to stay, jump. I felt like you see it with a lineman who maybe leaves a little early because he, hey, I don't know if I can make that block. You see it with the DB in coverage when he's in good coverage, and then all of a sudden he reaches up and he holds when the ball's in the air because he don't trust it just yet. You gotta live and grow through those moments. I've read this earlier today, and I'm one of my new. Failure is an opportunity for growth for winners. Failure is the opportunity for growth for winners. Doesn't mean you got to win all that. A winner is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A winner is a winner, whether the results on the scoreboard go the way you want that night or not. Again, you can't be captive. You can't be succumb to just short-term results. All right, short-term results is just a data point. All right, I'm into the long game. I'm into looking at what are we going to do with the aggregate of this, and we're going to be winners, right? Because we're always going to find a way. It's not toxic positivity. That wasn't what after North Gwinnett was. No, that sucked, and it needed to be called out, and it needed to be looked at. But it wasn't also all negative and demonstrative. It was matter of fact. This is what's going on. Here is how we are going to fix it. Some of it's on us, but a lot of it's on us. And a lot of it, guys, is on you.
Mm-hmm. That's such an important call out there, because I think sometimes after a tough loss, it's really easy to be demonstrative and hard, and that crushes confidence for the kids moving forward, right?
Well,
and these are opportunities to build confidence.
Absolutely. And grow and learn. And like I said, a lot of times frustration, all right, and that demonstrative stuff happens when the coach or the leader is not secure and confident in what they're doing. And I'm not saying like, oh, pat me on. No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I understand where we are and what we're going through. So the way we played against North Gwinnett, and it had nothing to do with the score. I've lost 61-3 and looked at kids in the eye and been like, guys, I can't thank you enough for the effort you put out today. Like you had no business even playing. That team would beat us 100 out of 100 times, but you went after. We didn't go after it. We didn't give ourselves a chance. The Brookwood game, we just didn't complete the play. We didn't complete the drive, and it was obvious. But it wasn't effort, and it wasn't one person. It wasn't one unit. It was across the board, and that was my big piece that day. And it wasn't a call-out session. I said, I want to go through these things, because if there's one person that wants to point a finger at a group, because some mistakes show up and they're brighter, right? A receiver dropping a ball that everybody sees, that feels like, oh man, what a kicker missing a kick, right? Oh, well, guys, there's a million other things that are going on that people might not see. I always say if a kicker misses a field goal, that's just him not bailing out the offense. His job, the offense's job is to score. The kicker is coming in to bail us out. Right? You can blow a coverage and the ball not get completed. That doesn't mean you didn't blow the coverage. You just got lucky, and everybody doesn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure we all saw, like, hey, these are things that I know you know and I know you can do. We got to figure out how to close that last gap to make the last 20% of this puzzle look like the first 80%. Because when we do that, we're going to start beating really, really good teams, and we're going to actually beat them pretty soundly.
Mm-hmm.
And credit to Brookwood, I'm not taking anything away. I've never felt like I've beaten a team worse and lost the game. I hope everybody understands what I mean by that. Because I've won games where I felt like we don't deserve to win that game, but man, how did we win it? Like I've been on the other side of that.
Yep.
But again, what an awesome, this year has given us so many lessons already, and they're different. And that's what they need. That's what this group needs, because we're young and we're inexperienced and we're building.
Mm-hmm.
And it puts us in the exact right spot to where I think we got to be. This is a great moment for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we should come into this week versus Norcross not thinking that we can win, 100% knowing that we can, and I dare say should, win this football game.
Yeah, if you're winning 80% of the game, right, there's not going to be a lot of those games that you lose. You might lose one or two. That's why you actually play the game. But if you're winning 80% of the battle, you're going to come out on top more times than not. And so
some people like that, or some people don't. I think it tells a story. There's a reason why if you win the average starting field position by 15 yards, 92% of those teams win that football game. We were one of the 8%,
Yeah.
But again, okay, so why? If I just throw that comment out there to them, that don't mean anything. That's why we had to go back and look,
Mm-hmm.
And it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't demonstrative. Again, like I said, this is not a call-out session. Last week was a call-out session, boys. I showed some things to call it out to. I wanted you to honestly be embarrassed about that. You should. You should be embarrassed if you don't put great effort out. You absolutely shouldn't. You should not be embarrassed if you don't make a play. Performance, hey, man, if your effort is there, if it mattered to you and you didn't make the play, man, you don't need to be yelled at. You need an arm around your shoulder, and you need look in your eye and say, hey, here's how we're going to fix it, right? And maybe it's just getting back on the horse.
Well, one of the things I do want to call out, because there was some positives and some definitely growth in that Brookwood game, was on the defensive side of the ball. And we've seen, really, really strong moments from the offense. We've seen improvement from the special teams. And this week, we did see some improvement on the defensive side of the ball. Mash, you and I were talking about yards after contact, right? And while it shows up as a stat line, it's also a key metric that you guys are looking at to gauge the overall impact of the defense. If you wouldn't mind, talk about that. This is the first time Parkview had a positive differential on yards after contact over their opponent. What did you see on the defensive side of the ball, and what were some of the positive takes away you can take from that?
So, again, I like things that tell a full story, not just one side of the ball. Yeah, it does tell us a lot about our defense, but this is, again, yards after contact versus the opponent. So it doesn't just tell us about our defense. It tells us a little bit about our offense, too. So we had, what was it, Mash, going into the game, our opponents had 430 yards after contact versus our 230. So that tells you two things. We're not breaking tackles. We're not stressing defenders. We're making it easy. We're not running the ball as hard as we maybe could on offense. And on defense, instead of trying to go back and count up every missed tackle, we want to look at, hey, we touched them and they kept going. So what does that tell us? That tells us that, A, we maybe are not tackling properly one-on-one, but B, it also tells us maybe we're not rallying to the ball, because it's normally not one-on-one tackles. It's normally 3-on-1. And C, on defense, it tells us maybe we're not finishing. And that was something that we talked a lot about after that North Gwinnett game, when we saw 4 white jerseys on top of an orange jersey, and we kept seeing 1 orange jersey on top of a white jersey with 3 standing around. That's not finishing. This game we finished. This game we strained. This game we fought for the extra yard on offense, and we fought and clawed to get the ball on the ground on defense. And that's a huge, huge data point when you talk about the essence of football is blocking and tackling.
I want to move forward here because we've got another big game. We got another big regional game here against Norcross. When you look at Norcross, they compare to Brookwood. Given how close that Brookwood game is, just want to see how do you feel Parkview matches up against Norcross?
You're right. Every team is a little unique, and you can kind of get into the wrong things to focus on. Oh, this team is this team. But actually, I think, too, though, you can instill a little bit of confidence and belief and understanding of, hey, what are we matching up against? And I would say that they're similar. They're similar from a talent level. When you pop the film on, there's, similar in size, similar in speed. And again, I feel like North Gwinnett is at a different level of ball, and then I feel like there's another level where the rest of kind of a lot of the teams in our region are, and that right now is what we're fighting and clawing to be able to conquer. And once we conquer that, we'll be able to set our sights on the next step. And I feel like a lot, just like you said, I feel like they're very similar teams. I feel like Brookwood may be a little more explosive and a little more multiple on defense, which can give some problems. All right. Whereas I think Norcross, they're big now. Oh boy, they're big on both sides of the line, but they're a little more static. Brookwood had a few backs in the backfield and a quarterback that could hurt you, in a hurry. When we made those few mistakes, which there were a few mistakes on defense, way fewer than they had been, but they made you pay. So I'm hoping maybe if we make a mistake there, maybe it doesn't make us pay with 6, maybe it only makes us pay with 30 yards. Right? I'm hoping on defense, they're big, all right, but I'm hoping that, are betting that, believing that if we can get our game established and play with the tempo that I think is starting to shock a lot of teams when they see it, big can become slow. Now, again, there's a lot of things that have to go in to happen to make that, right? Because they are big. They're going to be tough to move, okay? And while they're not as multiple, maybe as Brookwood was on defense, they're very sound in what they do. They play 2 quarterbacks, we kind of see one that's a little more of a pocket guy, one that's a little bit more of a runner, so we'll kind of see what they employ there. But again, and this is not as much about who the opponent is, it's more about what we did and what I believe we're ready in a week's time. And after the experience from last Friday, I don't just think we can play with these teams and beat them now. I know that we can play with these teams and beat them now. We beat them in every way but the scoreboard last week. Now we just got to take care of that piece. And that piece for the first time. Collins Hill was a little different. I don't believe they're 38-8 better than us, but it was us having to come out and make, hey, you got to make this, find a way to get open, find a way to do this, find a way to block that guy. We did it. Now we just got to complete the play. That's a much better place to be. Yeah. Figure out a way to get open. And we got open. Secure it. Oh, we had them. We didn't establish rhythm versus Collins Hill. We had all the rhythm in the friggin' world. You don't run 90-something plays if you don't have rhythm, right? Now we just got to continue to finish and sustain the drive. Don't be surprised when you make a good play. And I think that happens. So I use this analogy too. I'm a golf hacker. When I have time, I love it. You hit a bad shot and you get in your head and you're like, man, how do I fix it? Oh man, I'm sitting there thinking, keep the elbow in, blah, 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 all these different things. I swear to God, though, I have more issues with the next shot when I hit a good one. Because I'm like, how in the heck did I just do that? And now I'm thinking about how I did that. And I'm like, man, I probably can't never do that again. And then I hit a bad shot. I felt like at times that was us on Friday night. We hadn't hit the good shots yet. And then we started hitting them. And it's like, whoa, hey, how do we do that? We take our eye off and boom, that's too late. You let your attention slip by that much from a good thing, and it trickled into the next play. All right, learn that lesson. In there, done that. Let's see if we can fix it in a week, boys.
So, Mash, I want to ask you because I always find it interesting to, your perspective, coming off these games, knowing what the team has in front of them, how's the coaching staff feeling? What's the mindset right now in the locker room?
Yeah, I'll tell you, coming in after North Gwinnett, I don't really know, what I was expecting when we showed up on Sunday to flush that game and talk about the Brookwood game. But, excuse me, the thing that really jumped out to me when we got together as a staff that Sunday after North Gwinnett was the acknowledgement of the things that needed to be fixed and the things that we saw, but also no heads down. It was, we have a mission to accomplish and we've got Brookwood in 5 days. And so that was really, it was encouraging to me, which was, okay, listen, we're going to look at this last game objectively. We're going to apply those objective lessons to this next week, and we're going to get ready for Brookwood with it. We're going to give everything we have. And we did that throughout the week. I thought it was our best week of practice of the season. So we come back from Brookwood. Again, it was not an easy game to leave the field from. Looking up at the scoreboard, seeing how we played. So again, I didn't quite know what to expect when we showed up on Sunday. Same thing. It was, here's what went wrong. Here's how we're going to fix it, and let's go and do it. And we've seen that this week. So that's on the staff side. No heads down, everybody facing forward. Going to the locker room, and the same thing, man. That Monday coming off the North Gwinnett game, again, going back, I didn't really know what to expect from the players, what kind of attitude or what kind of mental posture they were going to be in. And man, they were ready to hit it that week. It was like a switch flipped of, we understand the mission. Now let's go and get better so we can accomplish that mission. Again, same thing coming out of Brookwood. It wasn't, woe is me, the season's done, we lost to Brookwood, oh well. It was, okay, we've got Norcross this week. Let's get ready for Norcross. And it just kind of makes everything a lot easier when everybody is facing that same direction and saying, okay, look, we can't do anything what happened 2 days ago or 7 days ago, 11 days ago. All we can do is what's going to happen today and tomorrow. And that's really, that was really encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Because it's level set. Everybody knows what the goals are, right? The goal wasn't to beat Brookwood. The goal is to play as many games as you can play.
Yeah. Right. And the tag on that is, and to play our best ball when ball matters most. Coach, I actually had a chat with a couple of our players earlier this week talking about that. And I just was reiterating, hey guys, what's our goal for this program this season? To play as many games as possible, play our best ball when ball matters most. And I asked the question, do we still have the ability to play as many games as possible? Coach, you've asked this to the team before. Yes, the answer is yes. Have we played our best ball when ball matters most? The answer to that is no. You look at last Friday night against Brookwood, right? We played some of our best ball, but not when it mattered most in those moments. So again, I just think that's something that we can really hone in on and focus in on keeping the mission in front of us, playing best ball when ball matters most.
I would actually kind of counter that. We did play our best ball current today. It's not our best ball possible. We are steadily, I feel, again, it's not this line, but we are trending here. That was the best game we had played. We just didn't finish it. And the beauty of it, again, I keep coming back. It's much easier to look somebody in the face and say, look, we should have won that football game because it was something that was within our control or something that we know we can routinely do.
We've been talking high level about, the overall team, the mindset heading into this week. I want to take a moment here and kind of let you highlight a couple of the players. And we usually do this in talking about some of those unsung heroes, right? Some of the kids are making an impact that maybe don't show up either on the stat line or that you don't see, the big highlight plays from. Who are some of the unsung heroes that you guys have seen over the last 2 weeks that are making a big impact on this team?
Well, before we go to the unsung, there's 3 players I'd like to recognize that gave some just incredible effort last week. Start with Sterling Dixon. Zandon was running like a man possessed, and that's our one punch, and then our 2 punch comes with Sterling, and then also with KJ. Well, KJ goes down with an injury early. Zandon goes down with an injury, and didn't I say this is going to be the biggest obstacle of this run right here is getting the horses to the race. Well, that's when Sterling steps up and essentially plays the entire game on both sides of the ball and ran the ball so well and played great inside linebacker. Then you go to Michaela Miner. I mean, the effort. When my wife comes home, when I come home and my wife is like, who is number 23? Because it didn't matter. He would come from the opposite end of the field. He's diving all over and I just showed clip after clip after clip, whether it was a field goal block, whether it was a long run that he comes off and makes a play, whether it's kickoff where he's running down like his hair's on fire. Unreal.
And Coach, he did that all week.
All week. He was our practice player of the week.
Every rep.
Twice. But the one that just really, I just couldn't stop watching, and I could have made an entire hour of clips, was Jacaden Mobley. So playing inside linebacker, every snap on defense, and essentially played darn near every snap of the 90 reps of offense. He recorded over 140 snaps, played some special teams. But what I wanted to show was it was the first play of the game, and he takes on somebody from the offense. He's kicking out a defensive end. He's giving up 6 inches and probably 80 pounds. Stands him up. Goes backwards a little bit, but stands him up. But then it was play after play after play. There was one on Sterling's run that just came up short of the first down. He is 15 yards downfield, taking a guy and finishing him on the sideline. And then about in the third quarter, that big dude that they stalemated is now getting pushed over the pile. I kept saying bodies on the floor. Bodies on the floor. Jacaden was finishing those blocks, the strain, coach, until the body was on the floor. And it was clip 155, and I showed it, and I'm like, okay, we can just stop here because I think I've made my point. It's clip 155, guys. And look who continues to give that effort. It was incredible. It was incredible. And he's everything that Bet represents. And I just can't say enough about the young man. He was one of the first ones that I connected with, just watching him work in the weight room. It's on our player council, the guys, he's a soft-spoken leader that leads by example. The good Lord, his example screams louder than any word ever could.
Just about to say a loud example. Leads by a loud example.
It was just awesome. I love to celebrate that. But on to, other guys. I mean, there's one guy that has just been stepping up over and over. And it was an awesome day of practice yesterday for him as we putting him on the service defense team and as we're gassing the offense up and trying to get them going. But Ashton is he's primarily a JV guy. He's got some secondary roles on special teams right now. But he is the first one to call up if things aren't being done right around here and we're not holding the standard. And he is not afraid to let people know on this team, like, hey, this, whether you're the star or a freshman, a junior or a senior, everybody has the ability to hold one another accountable because the standard is the standard. And he matches it with his actions, he matches it with his words, and he's just done an awesome job of serving his team, and I just can't tell you how valuable those roles are. And what's been cool is we've seen almost every week now, Coach, somebody move up from out of nowhere, even or second string to first string, or like I said, it was Brant this week on punt, because we had some one-on-one drills of a punt rush, punt block, little simulated drill, and he kept jumping in there. Kid hadn't been on punt team all year. Well, he's going to start on punt team this week because of the effort that he gave in those drills. And again, we don't see everything. I'd be ignorant to say we see everything. Yeah, right. We don't, but we will see it if you do it enough, and if you do it long enough, and you do it aggressively enough. It does stick out, and it does matter, and it does register. So, big shout out to Brant for that, Brant Williams and Ashton Davis for all of the work that they've been doing in practice this week.
Say something on Ashton, something that doesn't show up on film a lot, and that's really kind of growing into more of a vocal leader, but then backing that up on the practice field, giving the best look possible, servicing the varsity offense, or vice versa, servicing the varsity defense on scout, but then not being afraid to call out his varsity teammates. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do. If you're not a varsity 2 deep player, it's difficult to hold your teammates accountable. And that takes real leadership and courage. Coach, you talk about courage a lot. That takes courage. And that takes care. I care about this program enough to do something very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's indicative of the types of players that we are seeing throughout this season each week, like you just said, Coach, each week kind of taking steps up into roles that we desperately need. I mean, I think once we start to get a critical mass of guys doing that, that's really where we can start rolling.
No doubt.
Yeah, a team needs leadership at all levels. And Coach Clack, you've always talked about the importance of the important role that the scout team plays in making that team better.
Oh, yeah. It is the epitome of selflessness, right? I mean, it's him literally doing this to get you better. Now, what's cool is when you can make that connection of 90% of what we're doing is just called something. You know, the defense draws the scout cards up without names at the top of it. That's just one of our plays, so I can get better. So, and once those guys start figuring that out, that's when it really gets good.
What's the message right now for the team this week preparing for this game?
Well, back's against the wall, man. You know, door is closing, and that's very real. So I want them to have a little bit of desperation in their hearts and in their minds. I don't want them to have fear. It's not to lock them up, but now is the time. And we've talked about this race, and not that the season ends after this, but this is the opportunity, I believe, to really, really, really make that statement and hopefully walk off that field and feel really, really, really good about, as I reflect back to the 9 months of work and all the strain and struggle that got us to right here. And as much as I wanted to win that ball game for the community last week, you know, and for the boys, I know it's a rivalry game. I know there's a lot of history there. To me, one is not more important than the other. We win this one right here because of what we've learned from the ones before. And I just think it, you know, like anything, part of this job is so psychological. I mean, I used to say 50-50. I really believe as a head coach, it's probably closer to 70-30. And sometimes you got to figure out a way to sell it to them. Hey, man, I believe in you. You know, guys, there ain't nothing to sell. There ain't nothing to sell. If you don't see it, then we're not look at you. You're refusing to look at what's the truth. And so I just want them to have that feeling, a little feeling of desperation, but I want to have a huge feeling of belief. A huge feeling of belief. Like I said, I thought we could last week. I know we can this week, and I want you to come with me. It's powerful. Now, if I know I can, I'm not going to be surprised when I do it.
We'll leave it there because the thing you said earlier is that this team, boys on this team, shouldn't be thinking that they have a chance in this game. They should be thinking they should win this game. This is a winnable game.
I haven't said that all year, and that's intentional. Not because I was waiting for this moment. I was waiting for them to show me. I don't lie to them. I do my best not to. Even when I'm playing my psychology game, I'm not lying.
No,
I'm trying to figure out the best way. I'm trying to figure out the best way to get you to understand what I'm saying and believe it.
Guys, I appreciate your time today. I'm going to let you get back to it. We will see you, coaches. We'll see you out in the field. Coaches, good luck Friday night. Let's bring home a win.
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.